Alright, everybody. Um, so, this video is an explanation of magic in my novel A Gang of Daggers. Um, my boring explanation of magic. Three parts. Where we begin with magic, what we establish as magic and its relationship to the dagger, what is mastery of magic. So, first, to explain magic in A Gang of Daggers, I should explain my own understanding of magic and appreciation in literature. In general, I don't like magic in a story. Now, granted, if I'm reading a fantasy story and magicians are part of the story and they're using magic, good. Make it interesting, believable, part of the story. But some storytellers include magic in odd or unappealing ways. The writer could write a scene or sequence to explain why a character changes what they're doing, or use magic and now the character is in a completely different situation. Sometimes magic is used and it seems to have no effect on the outcome. Sometimes magic is used in terms of, I can counter that spell with this, types of one-up arguments. Magic is not fully considered as part of the fabric of the reality for some fantasy settings. It's like the author thought, oh, since I can have magic, I'll have this spell exist. But in my opinion, they fail to think of a history and background to spells. I don't want to repeat that mistake for my story. If I could, no magic. But for daggers, there has to be magic for three reasons. Magic to be able to travel to another world, magic to communicate, magic to convince parents to let kids disappear for weeks. Travel magic is simple. Two portals and say the magic words and poof, your characters appear in a new location. Magic to communicate makes sense for a world where magic is available and trade occurs, and I figured it would be easy to access. Any store in a rural village would have something to help in translating. Now, that spell has an interesting side effect. You communicate clearly and directly to other people around you, and as a result, you lose the ability to develop nuance with language, which means that things like telling jokes and riddles don't always work. This removes part of a social fabric of language, and it encourages illiteracy. Um, the third magic needed is to make parents not think about their kids and get worried. That was tricky and something that took me a while to figure out. I realized it could be something similar to Star Wars and the Force, but the Jedi mind trick here means you plant a thought in someone's mind while they are thinking. You talk to the person and try to convince them of your opinion. And that person will think and have thoughts that seem to support an argument, so they feel convinced of your point of view. So those three spells are introduced right away. The last spell being something that had to be acquired by the dagger. The guy who becomes the magic master learns the spell, begins to understand the nature of spellcraft, and starts teaching that to the rest of the dagger. Soon they know how to use magic to heal injuries and communicate telepathically. When I started writing, the challenges that loomed before me were, how do my characters learn magic? How do my characters start developing magic on their own? How do I explain magic from the daggers? And how do I explain magic and the dagger's form of magic to the reader using a character's voice? What limits exist for magic, magic users, spells, etc. I knew that as part of the story, the characters would meet a magician on Adrena. I wrote in that they meet this man when the village they are in is laid siege to, and spend 3 days learning a couple initial spells, such as planting thoughts in a person's mind, being able to see in the dark, and making a flame appear above your thumb. Simple spells, and using those as a starting point, I began to think of a system to group spells together and understand their properties and what was needed to make spells happen. Topic 2, what we establish as magic and its relationship to the dagger. The character who would focus on learning magic would also be the group's computer programmer. I realized I could use concepts from computer programming language to understand and explain magic, create parameters for a spell to exist, identify target, specify action taken, identify source of power or material, make spellcraft into binary yes and no answers, This explains why a spell can exist for a specific reason and not have a specific cost. The spell that helps interpret language helps this character quickly pick up on magic. And through exposition, he explains how magic is understanding how to manipulate matter. Magic uses energy to create that change. Magic can use energy that comes from living beings, including yourself. Magic means setting rules and parameters for what you are doing and creating. Being an educated high school student from the US means he understands the atomic structure of matter and Einstein's E equals mc squared. Interesting tangent. The more science classes a Dagger member takes, the better they can manipulate matter and create effects. Taking art classes improves how believable the magic facility is, adds details. Taking math improves efficiency and being able to construct things to greater size. Even, even taking English classes helps in creating a fake human that can interact with real people. In the story, I had the leader tell the magic user, I need this spell and that spell. This lets the reader know these spells are going to exist. And I have the magic user ramble on about things to describe ideas of the spell. The dagger is not flashy with their magic. They don't want explosions. They just want info and stealth. Topic 3. What is mastery of magic? The novel unfolds over 4 years, and the way to master magic follows the general path followed by the main characters. First year, learn some basic spells, especially healing. Also, they learn to join a meditation circle and connect their minds, creating a magic chat room where they can communicate and share ideas like files of memory to each other uh, to learn skills and magic. By the end of the second year, the student learns to use orb magic, which they can use to scout locations and learns to wire their brains using magic. By the end of the third year, a student has learned to create a person that appears lifelike, which means they can create a doppelganger, a clone, someone that looks just like themselves. The fourth year, the student usually has their clone work a night job for extra money. One of the ideas in the novel is that when the dagger goes into a fight, they can link their minds and give themselves a new and different perspective. They can move their bodies with better coordination and communication, so they quickly engage and overwhelm enemy forces while keeping themselves safe from enemy weapons. Against weak opponents, they are like a flood and will knock over anything and everything in their path. A junior or senior is needed to create and operate this, network control, and seniors have such mastery of magic they can operate the mental net link and fight at the same time. Orb magic goes from creating a small orb, between your hands to one large enough to hold, people and horses, that can carry people and fly through the air and become invisible. Orbs become the basis for a whole range of spells. They are created from anything, and usually from the creator's magical essence, which is the term I use to describe a mystical extra thing that exists because of magic. Orbs can be used as drones to fly around, or you can plant them inside of objects to act as trackers or hidden cameras. When a student plants an orb in their own brain, they create a new method to interface and interact with their mind, and turning their minds into computers, and so having tremendous control of their minds and bodies. I'm even thinking that the juniors and seniors can control their brains in such a way that they can go work a night job. Part of their brain sleeps, and they just go on autopilot till they finish their shift. They can, at will, access other juniors and seniors' consciousness to send messages, like you would a text. Seniors likely have this connection on all the time, and so are participating in an ongoing chat room with the rest of the seniors. So it's like at that point everyone is Neo from the Matrix, they just can envision, just project themselves everywhere and just see things. And and I'm even thinking that in their minds you can just cause spells to happen, and so the magic master of the senior class, conceivably could like, oh, I need a clone to appear. I need like some sort of person that looks a certain way to appear and have something happen, and bam, can have that happen. Um, Characters don't need to say words or wave their fingers in the air to cause magic. Just be alert and aware. The only limits on magic are what materials are present to conduct magic with. You can't create something from nothing. You need a source of material and energy. Since students from Earth know all matter is made of atoms, and which atoms exist in the air and what atoms are needed to create an object, the spells they use, sucks atoms from the air to a location and assembles them into the object. The energy comes from the magic user. Casting a spell that causes a cup made out of ice to appear is simple. Hydrogen and oxygen exist in the air, along with water vapor. The magician just needs to create cold through energy and entropy. Creating a cup made out of diamond, also easy, once you understand how to form the molecular bonds of carbon and arrange the atoms perfectly. Creating a cup of wood is easy for the carbon, hydrogen, and oxygen in the wood, but the formation of the complex molecules would mean the magician would copy a real cup made out of wood and use that as a template to create a cup out of nothing. So that is more or less the theory and explanation of magic for A Gang of Daggers. What do you think?